All right, welcome everyone to episode 12 of Paperboy Ventures. Today is going to be a really interesting one as we welcome Fun Guy to the show. Fun Guy is a California-based brand making chocolates and gummies with mood-enhancing properties. They do so by leveraging the power of both functional mushrooms as well as a plant called kanna, native to South Africa with a pretty rich history in its own right. So it goes much deeper than that. That is my shot at an overview. We'll get into it in more depth throughout the chat today. But let me get out of the way and introduce our guests and founders of the brand, George Moulton and Phoebe McPherson. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Too.
This is going to be a very cool story. I'm familiar with your backgrounds and have dug in over the last few days. So looking forward to peeling back the onion. But before we get any further, would love if you could just start with a brief pitch as to what you're doing over there and what you're trying to accomplish with Fun Guy.
Yeah, amazing. So, like you said, Fungi makes mood-enhancing chocolates and fruit juice, as well as daily wellness tinctures. And what we're doing is getting ahead of this trend of alcohol consumption being at an all-time low and psychedelic usage being at an all-time high, as well as psychedelic legalization being right around the corner. It's not going to be next year, but it's going to be in a few years. And so we are providing safe and legal access to psychedelic alternatives that make you feel really good. They make you feel better, and you can take them in place of alcohol and other party favors with no come down, no hangover, and you can take it every day. So that's what we're doing. We're by the people, for the people. We believe in plants. We believe in the future of psychedelics. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think what would probably be helpful, I know that you have a whole philosophy behind psychedelic versus psychoactive, and it's a key distinction point. So I think if you wouldn't mind just kind of laying out those two differences, I think that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. So psychoactive, psychedelic, two very different things, but very commonly confused. So there's something called the wheel of psychoactive substances. This is anything that's working on your endocrine system. It's affecting your brain, affecting your nervous system. And then within that, there's different slivers of psychoactive substance. We have things like depressants, which are going to be, or dissociatives, which is like ketamine and weed. We have stimulants, which is like caffeine. Then we have psychedelic, which is one sliver of psychoactive substance. So psychedelics are things that are changing your perception of consciousness, of reality. This is where the LSD is coming in, psilocybin and psilocybin-containing mushrooms, DMT, etc. And then right next to psychedelics, we have something called empathogens. And empathogens are psychoactive substances that metaphorically open up your heart. They increase feelings of love and joy and empathy. They increase feelings of trust with yourself and with others. So they're promoting feelings of connection and more authentic connection with other people. So psychoactive, that's including cacao, coffee, ketamine, everything. Psychedelic, it is a subset of psychoactive.
Yeah, and it can get confusing fast. And I think a lot of people, when they hear psychedelic, they're going to immediately think, oh, that's a drug, that's illegal. Psychoactive, caffeine falls into that bucket. I think that's easier for some people to understand. So just to confirm, so what you're doing is psychoactive. Is it psychedelic or is it not psychedelic?
It's not psychedelic. So you're not changing your consciousness. You're not having a meeting with God. You're not having any hallucinations, changes of perception. Would love to be able to provide that, but legalization is not allowing that at the time. So we're using an amazing plant called kanna alongside other functional mushrooms and plants. Kanna falls in that empathogen category. So it's an empathogen, it's psychoactive, not psychedelic, and it's totally legal. You're also safe to drive on it, operate machinery, go for a walk, talk with friends. You are not a danger to anyone when you're taking kanna. The only danger is that your heart is open, so you might feel a lot of things, which I think is a positive.
Very, very good. I just wanted to make sure we didn't get flagged for doing anything illegal
Yeah,
on Spotify or any other
totally
or YouTube. This is all fully legal. So
Yeah.
thank you for just summarizing that at the start. So love to get into the product and how the functional mushrooms and the blend that you're choosing engaged with the kanna to ultimately provide these mood enhancing feelings for people. So we can get to that. But before that, I think it's important to hear more about your backgrounds and why basically your paths have led to where you are now. So yeah, if you could both just chime in, tell us how you ended up here, how this got started, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so George is really the visionary, so I'll let him take it from here.
Yeah. So many different ways, but the way fungi came to be started was my love for mushrooms and my deep belief that anything I need to heal can come from nature. My past history, I started a few different businesses, but it was more like learning experiences that brought me to my path now. I loved those businesses at the time, but I never really had the this is it feeling. And when I found mushrooms and plants and realized that incorporating them into my day-to-day life could really enhance and also benefit me in the future, I became obsessed. I started incorporating them to my life every day. And when I did this, I realized that there was really nothing out there that was hitting the spot for products that I wanted. So when I had the this is it feeling, I was like, I need to create a product based around my lifestyle because my lifestyle was high impact sports, surfing and snowboarding my whole life. I had so many injuries that were catching up to me. And I wanted to be able to keep up with my body as I was getting older. So I went deep diving and yeah, I just started experimenting with mushrooms and plants that I could incorporate that would hit all the areas that I needed. And that's kind of where we led into the first brand that I started, which helped me meet Phoebe. So the first brand that came to be was Function, and Function was more it was market testing basically. We started with herbal tinctures. That first one I created, and then when I was ready to actually launch it, that's when Phoebe fell into my life. I knew I needed to build a team that could help me launch this, and naturally, when Phoebe and I met, I showed her what I was doing, and she introduced me to Kana. I was obsessed with mushrooms. She was obsessed with Kana, and it was like the perfect fit where we were just like yin and yang. And we launched Function. Function was basically our market research to know that how much demand there was for Kana. Alongside that, what I was obsessed with psychedelics. I saw where the psychedelic market was going, that I knew it was going to become legal at one day. So the idea for fungi also became a thing. It started as a social media page, more like a brand awareness, a mood board for like a psychedelic inspired brand that was creating specialty chocolates and gummies, but it was more based around psychedelic art, creating a mood board and a page for people to come to and like kind of take a pulse on that market just to see where it was going to go. And as we were building Function, we were working on acquiring the trademark for fungi. So as we acquired the trademark for fungi, we knew that fungi was a much stronger brand, and this was kind of when it was like, we need to merge into one and put Function underneath fungi.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how it all started. There's so much more, but like deep dive, like that's where it came from.
Well, and what was really beautiful is we acquired the trademark for fungi. We decided to build the fungi website and really just dip our toes into the space, right? We had already seen the massive demand for Kana, and we thought, okay, let's see what it would be like to launch these gummies and these chocolates with Kana. Is it really going to be able to compete in this like very saturated mushroom space? And it did. From like day one, it was successful. So much so that we then took the Function tinctures, rebranded them as fungi tinctures, put them on the website, and with zero promotion, didn't even put it on social media, didn't even talk about it. They were selling 10 to 1 to Function. And from there, we knew, like, we have the brand. Like, everything that we need, like, the direction is set for us. And we had to put all of our resources there. And it's just been, I mean, it's been a crazy ride ever since. Like, we sold out multiple times. We pre-sold thousands of units, which was insane and wild. And like, we've just kind of been hanging on for dear life ever since.
Yeah, I have to say, when I saw the name Fun Guy on this brand, I was like, how did they get that trademark?
Yeah,
it is
magic.
it's excellent for what you're doing. So nice job bringing that together. And George, to to summarize on your piece of this story, basically you had your own problems from your past history. You started to experiment with mushrooms to treat those injuries, started working through formulas, and then you met Phoebe on the Kana side of what you're doing. And Phoebe, can you talk to us about Kana? I think that really people have a good, well, I'll say in the food space, in the CPG space, functional mushrooms have been around for a long time now, and there are products that incorporate them in many different fashions. What about on the Kana side? It's something I'm not familiar with, and I imagine most people aren't. So talk to us about that and how that came to be, and really how that
Yeah,
works.
of course. So Kana is beautiful. It's such a beautiful plant. As kind of like this baseline nutshell, so we're all on the same page. Kana isn't a pathogen. It opens up your heart metaphorically. It's working as a natural antidepressant and anxiolytic, which means anti-anxiety. It's reducing stress and it's non-addictive, which is amazing, and it's non-habit forming. And the more you take it, the more you feel it. In South Africa, it's been used by people for 30, 40, 50 years without any side effects as a natural antidepressant. It's incredible at helping you increase feelings of connection with other people. The indigenous use it for every part of daily life. So it's kind of bridging in this like psychedelic adjacent space where people use it for ceremony, but they also use it for daily life. It's really, really safe to use. But even better is that it pairs well with almost anything. I kind of compare it to like tofu, where it like takes on the feeling states of like whatever you're cooking tofu with. So you can pair it with alcohol and you end up consuming less alcohol because you're feeling more open. You can pair it with psychedelics. You can pair it with other mushrooms and plants, and it's going to enhance the effects of those things. I discovered Kana through work in the plant medicine space. I was deeply, deeply involved in that space. I also founded another mushroom and plant company with Kana as well. I'm also an herbalist, so I bring in a lot of understanding of like formulation, how to pair plants and mushrooms together. And then just because of my understanding of like plant medicine and like facilitation and like working with people one-on-one in that way, I understand how people are interacting with these plants and mushrooms. So I know how to speak to it, how to market it, and what people need. And though I come from more of like the woo-woo hippie space, I think what's really beautiful is working with George, who's like definitely not woo-woo hippie in any way. He's very much like mass market, like speaking to the people who are able to kind of like bridge each other's gaps and like just deliver like a really beautiful message and really amazing products. But Con is the future. Like I've said this before and I will say it again. It has the capacity to be as big as psychedelics, like as big as like psilocybin mushrooms. We are in the infancy of it as an industry. And like just from what I've seen in the past 5 years, it's absolutely going to blow up. I was speaking on stage about Kana in 2021 at a psychedelic conference and like promoting it as like a microdosing tool. And I remember you could Google Kana and there was like nothing that would pop up, like one Wikipedia page. People didn't really know about it. And you Google Kana now and it's every, like so many brands, so many people, like the information is just coming and coming. But I feel really lucky that I've been in the space for so long that I understand where the space is going. Like I know all of the players in the game.
Yeah.
So I'm able to navigate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
gives you oh, sorry to cut you off, George. I was just going to say, I think it gives you a level of expertise. I know that you probably feel it's everywhere now because you're in it. I don't like I don't know anything about it. I'm kind of a layman in this area, and I'm open to new things. And I think that part of the reason I'm really interested in what you're doing is because of the big shift that you mentioned at the beginning, right? Consumers, people are looking for ways to shift their mindset that isn't alcohol. And I think it does open up this whole new world of using functional mushrooms and things like Kana to help people to get to those states. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to hear about. On the Kana side, is have you seen it used in a big way, like in the U.S. market yet, or like is your bet that you guys are the brand that's going to really bring it to the forefront?
I mean, we're definitely one of them. The way that we are using Kana in our products hasn't been done. Like it really hasn't been done. And like what we are on track to do has not been done before with Kana. And that's what we're really excited about. We are really, I believe, the leaders here that are showing people how you can shift your relationship to alcohol and substances without vilifying it. Because Kana, like if you take Kana 30 minutes before you drink, you end up drinking less. So you're less hungover and you can still like have a drink with your friends, right? Like a lot of like these alcohol alternative things are like vilifying alcohol, and we're not trying to do that, right? And then on top of that, like our products are really good. A lot of the Kana products don't taste good. They're in like a weird form factor where like you wouldn't really take it in a social place, or people haven't really figured it out, or they're not actually using Kana. Most people don't understand how to source it, and so they're sourcing chrysanthemum flowers thinking it's Kana, or they don't understand that it's just ground up Kana, but like it actually needs to be fermented and extracted. Like I think people see dollar signs and they're just going for whatever's like the lowest hanging fruit. And because of that, we're seeing these kind of like half-assed, so pardon my French, brands. But as we know, with anything in CPG and emerging industries, you have to be the player that's in it for the long haul. And that's exactly what we're here to do. We're in it for psychedelic legalization. We're in it for the changing of the Kana industry. We'll be around 5, 10 years, 15 years from now, for sure.
Yeah, amazing. So appreciate all the perspective
Yeah.
there. It's a nice segue too into the product itself, and you know you're talking about sourcing, quality, and all of the things that we love to hear with promising early stage. Right, focus on quality, set yourself apart when it comes to the product. And I know you talk about micro dosing and sort of like how to basically how to get the product formula to where you have it now. Can you talk to us about that, bring the mushrooms and the kana together, what that looks like?
Yeah. So 2023 was really fun because I got to make thousands and thousands of pieces of Kana chocolate, pairing it with different herbs and mushrooms. Like I had an idea of what I wanted. George was basically like, Phoebe, this is how I want people to feel. Have at it.
Oh my
And I
god,
was like, okay. So we just made so many iterations and we're just going around to festivals across the country, handing out samples, trying it ourselves. My roommates, like, it was a year of them trying Kana chocolate every single day until they got sick. It was amazing. But like that's what you have to do. Like you have to be that passionate about what you're creating. All of those iterations like led us to like some really, really amazing formulas. And I think a big thing for George is that like he wanted people to really feel something. And I've always come from like I don't want people to feel like too much. And he's like, but we have to have them feel it. Otherwise, they're not going to see it as an alternative to substances and alcohol. And so being able to reiterate on that and finding the perfect combination of ingredients was like such a challenge, but the best challenge ever. And when we finally landed on it, we were like, oh my God, we've got it.
Yeah. And it was like the balance too. It was like you want them to feel it, but you don't want to feel it too much to where they're overwhelmed. So it's like we put in the work. We put in so much time. It's
So
like
many hours,
yeah,
so many months.
we've verified this.
Yeah.
We have tried so many different versions, and like that's what it is what it takes.
It is what it takes. And I think so, and this is a little bit jumping ahead, but there's a point to it, so hang with me. We have a whole slew of formulas that we'll be releasing over the next like year and a half, right? Like basically 1.25 different feeling states. It's like sex, chilling out, sleep, recovery, et cetera, et cetera. But we knew the very first formula that we needed to launch was this like going out formula. And so that's why we paired kind of the 4 pieces most needed for a really good night out, like going to a concert, whatever, which is an empathogen, so something to open you up and help you connect with other people, a mushroom, because obviously a mushroom, a stimulant to help you feel everything and feel a little bit energized to get you through the night, and then an aphrodisiac. So if you connect with someone, you can actually like really feel connected with them. Who doesn't want a little bit of love? So we did all of those 4 pieces in an herbal formula. And like the result is literally a microdose of MDMA. And like it's very light, but like I tell you, you go out to a Fred again concert at 9 p.m., you take a few of our gummies, you feel like you are in it. You're super stoked. You're connecting with everyone. You're dancing. Then you leave the concert and you're in bed by midnight and you can actually get a good night's rest. Like who doesn't want that in their life?
Yeah, so and that's the current formula, right? The going out
Yeah,
formula. That's the empathogen. That's the one. This box. Correct.
yes, that's
Yeah.
that box.
Okay. And as far as those 4, basically like there's 4 key
Yeah.
pieces to it, and it's what's the stimulant that's in there?
So yeah, great question. So we are using guarana. Guarana is a Brazilian seed that's like known for energy. You find it in a lot of energy drinks. But unlike a lot of like kind of the mass CPG energy drink space that just like slams you with guarana, we are using a very small amount. So the end result is that each dose has more caffeine than chocolate, but less than a matcha, which is the perfect amount to just activate the rest of the ingredients without overwhelming your system. So you can take multiple doses throughout the night, as people typically do when they're drinking or taking substances. And that was really important to us. And this kind of notion around 4 key ingredients and 4 pieces to a formula is something that we're continuing on with all of our future formulas. So all of the next ones will each have 4 ingredients. Kanna will be one of them, a mushroom will be one of them, and then 2 other kind of activators. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So, and as far as what people should feel if, say, they go on your website and they buy the product.
Yeah, exactly. So starting November, we'll be launching our second formula that we're really excited about. It's called Chill. It's supposed to help people chill around the holidays, feel like a body high of weed, but you're not high at all. It's not sedating, so you can still interact with people, but you're really calm. And then when we launch that, we'll be renaming our current formula Flow, which is the exact feeling you get when you take it. And then from there, every quarter, we'll be launching a new formula. Yeah.
Gotcha. And would love to hear a little bit more. You mentioned sourcing, quality, I guess the areas that I'm curious to hear about are on the mushroom side. Can you talk to us about the sourcing there? And then on the Kana side, you mentioned others are sourcing maybe something else that is like a stand-in for Kana. So yeah, how does that come together?
These are specialty. So glad we having someone like Phoebe on the team because she is so on it about where these ingredients come from, where they need to come from, where the best ones are, and she gets it. So she will tell you all about it.
I love sourcing. It's so important because I am a little hippie woo woo. I like really believe that how plants and mushrooms are grown is how they're going to feel in your body, right? So, like mushrooms, for example, they're hyperaccumulators, so they're soaking up all the nutrients around them. So, like if you take a mushroom from a tree on the side of the road in LA, you're going to get sick because it's soaking up all of that pollution. And so, when it comes to our mushrooms, we're using fruiting body only mushrooms, organic, of course. That's like the bottom line. And they're grown far, far away from pollution in open air on the substrate that they would grow on in nature. So like reishi is like growing on trees, shiitake is like growing on logs. And we really believe that that's so important to what we're getting. A lot of times in the United States, mushrooms are grown indoors in like false light in plastic on like rice filler. That is not how nature intended it to be, and that's not what we want to put in our body. I know it's not what I want to put in our body.
Interesting. So you only do like wild fruiting mushrooms
So
that
it's
are
not wild. They're cultivated, but they're cultivated like in open air on what they would actually grow on in nature.
Gotcha. Okay, because
Yeah.
I have seen a number of other brands that do everything indoors. Like vertical farming in that way. So
Yeah.
it's not in that direction. It's
Yeah, well, and
outdoors.
it depends on the ingredient. So some ingredients can be grown like that. I fully believe, and George agrees, that that's not the types of mushrooms that we want to put in our body. Like
Yep.
you can look at mushrooms that are grown inside and you see these reishi and it's like Franken reishi. It doesn't even look like what reishi grows like in the wild. And so why would you put that in your body, right? Like it doesn't matter if it's cheaper or if it's grown in the US. Like I'm not putting that in my body, and I want to make sure that we are translating like the same awareness around ingredient sourcing to our consumers. When it comes to Kana, we work directly with farms in South Africa. We participate in benefit sharing agreements. So there's this agreement that the Kore and the San, the indigenous groups in South Africa, were the wisdom keepers of Kana. So when we're cultivating it, a portion of what we pay actually goes back to those groups. So we of course participate in that. All of our Kana is grown outdoors. They're grown in pots, but they're grown completely outdoors in the environment that they grows naturally. Kana is really, really finicky with how it grows. So you have to make sure that you're growing it in the proper environment. And then we're working directly with these incredible scientists that are doing the extractions for us. The big thing with Kana is because the alkaloids, and I'm getting a little sciencey, so hang with me, you guys. The alkaloids can vary wildly from plant to plant, even just 2 plants growing exactly next to each other. So what that means is you need to work with massive amount of raw material and then ferment and extract it together so we can standardize the alkaloids. And the alkaloids are what are responsible for the different feeling states. So then we can make sure that when we're producing herbal, so wild products for people, they're getting a reliable dose and a reliable feeling time after time. And then that's, of course, translated to all of our other ingredients. There's certain ingredients that we only want to source from like the host country, holy basil, for example. We use a version of skullcap that's only found in one country. And so we work directly with a farmer who's giving it to us organic. And then we look at all of the COAs. We make sure that the lead's low. Like I spent a lot of time on the sourcing and like obsessing over what's going in our products. Yeah.
It's incredibly important, and they can definitely appreciate. I had somebody else on last season of Paperboy, and their mantra was "What grows together goes together," and basically scouring the local environment for what they were putting into their beverages. And
Beautiful.
yeah, definitely appreciate what you're doing with that. And I think when you take that kind of care with the ingredient base, everything that goes into it, it ultimately pays off in the product itself. Probably a complicated supply chain. You've got a lot going on, but with bringing all that together, so basically you source all of your ingredients, you bring them to California. Is that where the product is made?
Yeah, so all of our products are made in California. They're all co-packed in California. Yeah, once we have the ingredients, we try to keep it as local as possible to California. Um, I think a big thing is like when it comes to sourcing, you have to be sourcing like all over the world to get like the best stuff. But then once we get it, we try to keep it as local as possible. We're working on most of our manufacturing being in like the greater LA area. So that's really exciting too.
Cool. All right. So you got product, you launched it, I think was it the first quarter of this year? You launched in March of 2024?
February 28th,
February.
technically, so the day before March, but same.
All right, same. So you figured out the formula, you put it out to market. Talk to us about what's happening. What are you seeing out there? What does demand look like? How are people engaging with it?
We sold out 3 times. People are loving it. Obviously, there's not one formula, there's not one magic pill for everyone. So it's like, even though how obsessive and perfectionist I am, and Phoebe is, like we just want to create products that help people. You can't help everyone, but like a lot of people are coming back to us time and time. Like, how many repeat customers do we already have?
So we're about 20% every month is repeat customers, which is really cool. But I think what's really exciting is besides this like amazing mood board and like following that George had built on Instagram for fungi, we also launched fungi with an integrated campaign with one of the biggest psychedelic magazines in the country, Double Blind. So we immediately not only had brand recognition, but brand validation from one of the top resources for like psychedelic understanding and news and products. And we did a 3-month integrated campaign with them. They introduced us to the world. They gave us their feedback, gave feedback to customers, and we saw a massive increase in sales every time they put out a new piece of content. And that was really cool. And I think being able to launch with a really good campaign that's not relying on just social media ads is massive. And being able to rely on an actual like knowledge base and what word am I looking for? Like point of influence outside of just like influencers and content creators really helps solidify us as like a brand that you should respect and a brand that you should trust. And then all it took was people trying it and they tried it and they loved it and then they're hooked. And I think with CPG, like that's kind of the hardest thing, right? Like it is so saturated. Social media ads are like absolutely impossible and they suck. And all it takes is like getting it into the hands of people and getting them to try it in the right environment. And if your product's good, like you're set. Yeah. And our product is good, so we're set.
And then the brand.
Yeah.
I am a big believer that branding can be everything. There's a lot to say about a strong brand because there's some brands that don't do it. Like I've tried brands that like not even in this space, but just they're not like there's stuff that's so much better, but because of the brand, it's like I choose to buy it because it makes me feel a certain way. And paired with really good products that actually work and a strong brand, I think we're really set up for success.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, brand and product and then distribution. It's like the holy trinity of CPG. So you're definitely onto something. And as far as the launch goes, so it sounds like you basically found maybe the most credible media partner
Yeah.
in your core space. Double Blind, I'm not familiar, but it sounds like struck a partnership with them, launched with them, and that drove the traffic to sell out for the initial rollout.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I remember it was crazy because we were at Coachella, basically doing like guerrilla marketing and like handing out a bunch of product to people at Coachella. Like, you should try this. It's like legal MDMA, which was really fun. And then suddenly I get a call from our assistant, and she's like, "Hey, I think we're sold out." And I was like, "No, we're not sold out." And then I was like, "Oh my God, we're sold out." And literally a campaign was going live 24 hours later with Double Blind, like the next part of the campaign. I was like, "Oh my God, what do we do?" And I was like, "We should just put up like a wait list." And then I was like, "No, that's like a lot of money we're losing out on. We just launched. Like, we have to like collect money." And so I was like, "We should just try to put up pre-orders. Like, fashion brands do it. Like, pre-order." And we put it up, and it was just like instant. Like, everyone was buying. And suddenly, like in a month and a half, we had like 2,000 items pre-ordered. We were like, "Oh my God, this is really real. Like, we can't mess up." And that was fun. Um, so we're super grateful for it. And I think the other thing I'll say is just like a learning is, you get what you pay for. And we paid a lot for this integrated campaign, but it paid off. And it's like investing in like fewer campaigns, but really high quality ones are going to take you further than like a bunch of like small. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the question, right? You have the success out of the gates. It's like, how do you replicate that? How do you keep hitting that home? And it kind of brings up the next question of, so most of the business is done through your website today, right? And I think you have a couple of retail locations that you're experimenting with.
Yeah.
Is that how you see the business going? So if you're looking, next year, do you think it's a mostly direct to consumer type business or more so in the retail environment?
We're definitely pushing our retail.
Yeah.
So a big thing is one of the number one pieces of feedback we get from our customers through like email messages, everything is, "I'm going out tonight. I'm going out this weekend. Where can I go and buy a product?" It's like, I need to go buy it in store. And our product isn't like a subscription product. It's not like oh, let me plan ahead. It's oh, I'm going out. Let me go grab something, in the same way that non-out works. And so our goal is to be in 1,000 retail locations by the end of 2025. We're really, really going to do a massive push as we close funding, hopefully receive funding, to get our product in, the hands of people exactly where they are and where they're already shopping. I can't remember the last time I bought a chocolate bar online, but I can remember the last time I bought one in store, which was literally yesterday. And I bought like a $15 mood enhancing chocolate bar. And like, that's just how it works. And we are seeing the writing on the wall. And so we know the direction that we need to go. Obviously, we'll always have DTC, but we know retail is going to be a massive, massive source of success for us.
Yeah. Just even from small locations to like then working up to large scale chains all over.
Yeah.
Just want it to be accessible to people. It's like, it's this type of thing needs to be accessible to people and meet them where they are.
Exactly. And what's been cool is in the few stores that we have, launched into, every month they're reordering. Every single month. Yeah. They're ordering more, they're doubling. They're like, "Okay, what else can we do?" And that's been really exciting to see, and just like great data for us to bring back to like investors and others. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting question of like where you go first, and I hear you too on like the festival strategy to drive trial, right? Like maybe it's not as much of a selling point, but you can drive initial consumer trial. But I spent years at Red Bull, and we had this, the business model of on premise going to bars and nightclubs. That was the first point of experience for a lot of consumers, and then you would go to off-premise like retail accounts, and that's where the volume would push through. So, I think with the way that you're approaching it, it just reminds me of that same playbook. But cool to hear about. Awesome. So you've got a lot going on. I know with the chocolates, the gummies, the tinctures. Would love if you could kind of close us out with sort of your vision of where this could go down the road. So maybe not just like with the products, but a bigger picture with the brand. I know there's deep reasons as to why you're both doing this. Would love to hear a little bit more about that.
So we want, or like fungi is going to be the leader in alcohol and substance alternatives. This is our mission, and we are going to make it happen. I know there's more you wanted to kind of tap in on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, our motto, like our driving force, is that psychoactives and psychedelics, they're unapproachable and they're scary and they're confusing to most people. And we are here to reintroduce psychoactives and psychedelics to people in the Western world in an approachable way. Like, we're making it approachable, we're helping people understand it, and we're helping people feel safe. We're doing it now ahead of psychedelic legalization with functional mushrooms and Kana, and we'll be doing it in the future as psychedelic legalization changes. And that's all we're here to do. And at the end of the day, if people feel good and they feel better, our job here is done. Yeah.
I love it, making it more approachable, and I agree. I think that it is it's an unknown, like scary to some people. It's just an area that a lot of folks are unfamiliar with right now, and I think that there's a clear push for a lot of people to understand the natural world around them, get closer to more traditional types of ingredients and foods and beverages they're putting into their bodies. So I think there's a lot of a lot of white space as a whole into that whole direction.
Yeah, we have a lot of big plans. There's still so many more ways to like really meet people where they are, and it's like I said, like what Phoebe said, it's like, I don't know if you mentioned this, how like alcohol sales are at their all-time low in the past decade, and like we really do aim to hit that and attack the non-alc beverage space as we're growing. We have some big plans for that as well.
Amazing. Well, we will be following along.
Yeah.
So thank you both so much for coming on. It's been awesome to hear your story, and we're all fans now. So thanks to you both.
Thank you.